There was this anatomy class where I thought I knew something more than the teacher, and I stood up and I said something, and actually I was wrong. And then later on I realized, this teacher, he kept quiet, and after the class he called me aside and he showed me the book and he said, it's not you versus me, it's what the facts are. And from that day onwards, I started realizing that, one might perceive things in a particular manner, but the truth may lie somewhere else. At the end of it all, to thine own self be true. If one is true to oneself, we listen to our own inner conscience, I think we'll always be guided towards doing the right thing. And I think that exists in each and every one of us, irrespective of what field we are in. That inner prompting is always there. But I think very often we choose to ignore it. And we will say that we as human beings are rational beings. And that's where the problem comes. Very often, I think if we follow our heart, we'll never go wrong. And that's where the word passion comes in. If we are passionate about whatever we do, we can never go wrong. I would just like to recall something that I happened to read, several years ago. And the quote was something like this, that there is a lot of generation gap. And then when I found whom it was attributed to, it was Aristotle. So you can imagine this debate is really, it is timeless. It was there probably 1,000 years ago. And maybe, now I have teenage children and I say the same thing. Once you come out of the portals of the college, you're left out there trying to fend for yourself. So, when you are there, the ground realities are very different. And I would say when we are in college, no doubt we have hands-down experience, but a lot of it is theoretical knowledge. And, we are still raw. Once we are out there, we realize that we have to deal with people, and we don't have, in a real sense, our professors or teachers to back up. And people can be asking a lot of questions, and we have to learn, even though we are knowledgeable, how to give it to them in a very presentable, acceptable manner. So that is something that I really found challenging. Now the problem is, all these things are so tenuous. You go from one country to another, one society to another, or even maybe across various socio-economic classes, and people will change the definitions. So one has to ask this question, is there anything universal about all these ethical values? One way, to my mind, of resolving this is, looking at something that would be same. I also think that if one is able to stand up for oneself, what one believes in, some things are always the same. I've always believed that, we are born into a society, and society gives us so much. We are all indebted to society. And like, John Donne once said, no man is an island. We are all part of something. And I have so many people who, in the medical profession especially, they come and say, I feel so helpless because I'm dependent. One is always afraid of being dependent on someone. We always value our independence. But I have a question to ask, and this is something that each one of us must truly ask ourselves. None of us are really independent. Are we really independent? The answer is no. And that's why I think when we are part of society, we ought to give back something to society. I would say one should know one's limitations, how far I can stretch myself. And if I think, this is my limit, I can't go beyond this, my back may break, I think it is time to ask for help. At the same time, I would also say, none of us are omnipotent, all-powerful, all-knowing. We all, as human beings, have our own limitations, not only physically, but also when it comes to knowledge. So I think if I don't know something, I should say that life is a series of, events where we learn. So it is okay to say, all right, I don't know this, but I can always learn. And therefore, I will ask someone and ask for assistance or help.